Welcome to Motivation Hub Rise, a place where inner strength awakens through every story, every message, every breath. This is your space to awaken, to heal, and to choose yourself day by day. The journey begins here, the journey back to you. Let's take a moment. Breathe in, breathe out. Now ask yourself, have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller, more insecure, or emotionally drained? Chances are you've encountered toxic energy, and often it hides in plain sight. Life throws many challenges at us, but one of the most subtle and soul-draining is dealing with toxic people. Not the kind who scream and shout, but the ones who operate in shadows, who smile as they chip away at your confidence. These people don't walk around with neon warning signs. They creep in quietly, cloaked in charm or false concern, until one day, you look in the mirror and wonder, why do I feel so empty? Here's the truth. You are not responsible for their behavior. You are not responsible for the way they treat you. What you are responsible for, entirely, is how you respond. And that response starts with recognition. Toxicity rarely shows its face right away. It sneaks in through a seemingly harmless comment, a backhanded compliment, or a friendly critique. But pay attention to how those interactions make you feel. If you leave feeling small, doubting yourself, or emotionally exhausted, take note. That's not normal. That's not healthy. At the heart of toxicity lies energy exchange. You might notice that after being around a certain person, even briefly, you feel tense, low, or uncertain, despite nothing overt being said. Toxic people have mastered the art of draining others without ever raising their voice. Their tone may be sweet, their words mild, but the effect, devastating. It's like an invisible thief stealing your peace, your joy, and your sense of self. And it happens so subtly that you might not even realize the damage until it's already deep. The red flags? They're emotional. When a short conversation leaves you questioning your worth. That's not coincidence. That's a signal. And one of the most dangerous weapons in a toxic person's arsenal is manipulation. Manipulation often wears the mask of guilt. You might find yourself apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You might start questioning whether you're too sensitive or reading into things too much. Their passive-aggressive remarks become your problem. Your kindness becomes your vulnerability, and your voice silenced. They twist your words. They turn compassion into weakness. They push your boundaries until you forget where they even were. And if you've ever found yourself constantly second-guessing your thoughts, your memory, your reality, you may be experiencing gaslighting. This is a powerful psychological tactic toxic people use to disarm you. They'll claim something didn't happen, even when it clearly did. They'll accuse you of overreacting to the very behavior that's hurting you. Gaslighting isn't just confusing, it's destabilizing. It makes you doubt the one thing that should be sacred, your own truth. So if your energy feels stolen, if your self-worth feels under attack, and if you're constantly adjusting who you are just to maintain peace, pause. Recognize what's happening. Because awareness is the first act of reclaiming your power. This is your life. Your peace matters. Your boundaries matter. And above all, you matter. In the previous section, we uncovered how toxic people manipulate perception and twist reality to maintain control. But their most powerful tactic? Making you doubt yourself. Toxic behavior isn't always loud or obvious. It often operates in the shadows. They make you question your instincts, second-guess your emotions, and doubt your perceptions. That's the danger. Because when you stop trusting yourself, you become more vulnerable to their influence. Ever find yourself constantly apologizing for your feelings, even when you've done nothing wrong? Do you often wonder if your reactions are valid? That's not you being overly sensitive. That's a sign you may be experiencing gaslighting. It's a subtle, yet devastating form of manipulation that erodes your self-confidence and replaces your inner clarity with confusion. But it doesn't stop there. Toxic people often thrive on imbalance. They rarely take accountability for their actions. Instead, they shift the blame to you, to others, to anyone but themselves. This constant projection distorts reality, leaving you walking on eggshells, trying to fix things that were never yours to fix in the first place. And drama? It follows them like a shadow. They seem to stir up chaos at every turn, turning small inconveniences into full-blown crises. Whether it's gossip, reopening old wounds, or sparking misunderstandings, toxic individuals are masters at keeping you emotionally off balance. And when life constantly feels like a storm, finding peace becomes nearly impossible. But perhaps one of the most damaging effects of toxicity is how it halts your personal growth. Healthy relationships nourish us. They encourage evolution, ambition, and change. Toxic relationships do the opposite. They confine you. They make you question your goals, downplay your successes, and plant seeds of doubt in your mind. Have you ever shared a victory only to have it met with jealousy, indifference, or backhanded compliments? That's not support. That's sabotage in disguise. And over time, it can chip away at your belief in your own potential. Then there's isolation. Toxic people may slowly, deliberately isolate you, subtly encouraging distrust in your support system. They don't really care about you. You can't rely on them. Only I understand you. These statements may not always be spoken aloud, but they're communicated through behavior, controlling, manipulative behavior that aims to sever your ties to others. When you start to feel disconnected from your friends, family, or even your colleagues, when you start doubting everyone except the toxic person, it's time to pause. Because that's not clarity, it's control. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to reclaiming your emotional well-being. And the tool you need most? Boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges that connect you to peace, to balance, and to your sense of self. They aren't about pushing people away. They're about defining what you will and will not accept, and drawing a clear line between your emotional needs and others' demands. Because protecting your energy isn't rude. It's necessary. Previously, we talked about reclaiming control through boundaries. Now, let's take that understanding deeper, because setting boundaries isn't just about drawing a line, it's about honoring your worth. When you set healthy boundaries, you're doing more than just saying no. You're saying yes to your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. You're affirming that your peace matters, and you're inviting others to respect that truth. Boundaries are a declaration. I value myself enough to protect what's sacred to me. But here's the reality. Setting boundaries can be incredibly uncomfortable, especially for those who are naturally empathetic or compassionate. You might worry about being perceived as rude, selfish, or even fear being rejected. But boundaries are not acts of rejection. They are acts of self-respect. Saying no doesn't mean you love someone less. It means you love yourself enough not to betray your own needs. In fact, when done with kindness and clarity, boundaries strengthen relationships. They remove confusion. When you show others where your limits lie, you give them an opportunity to meet you in a space of mutual respect. And in doing so, you build stronger, more authentic connections. Remember, boundaries are not just about words, they're about action. It's easy to say, I need space, or I won't tolerate that behavior, but it's the follow-through that counts. If you set a boundary, honor it. If you say you won't tolerate disrespect, then stand firm when it happens. Because when you don't enforce your boundaries, you send a silent message that they don't really matter, and people will respond accordingly. Setting boundaries is not a one-time thing. It's a continual practice. People, especially toxic ones, will test your limits. They'll try to guilt trip you, manipulate you, push back to see if you'll fold. That's why consistency is essential. Every time you reinforce a boundary, you reinforce your value. But boundaries aren't just about shielding yourself from toxic people. They're about managing your energy and time. Life is filled with endless demands, and without clear limits, burnout is inevitable. Boundaries help you filter what deserves your energy and what doesn't. They give you space to rest, recharge, and realign with what truly matters. Saying no to what drains you allows you to say yes to what fulfills you. Whether it's declining obligations that don't serve your goals or carving out time for rest, boundaries are an act of preservation, a quiet revolution of choosing yourself. And don't worry, boundaries don't have to be harsh or inflexible. Think of them not as brick walls, but as gentle guardrails. They guide your path, offering flexibility and balance. Some relationships may require firmer boundaries. Others might just need gentle reminders. In the end, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's self-love in action. Building from the foundation of clear and consistent boundaries, the next step is learning to stay in tune with yourself and having the courage to honor what you truly need in every situation. Sometimes, the quiet voice inside you already knows the answer. That gut feeling? It's not just intuition. It's wisdom earned through experience. Trust it. Let it guide you. When something or someone consistently leaves you feeling diminished, drained, or disrespected, it's time to make a choice. Protect your peace or continue sacrificing it. And sometimes, protecting your peace means walking away. Letting go isn't weakness. It's not defeat. It's power. Reclaiming your energy by stepping away from relationships that no longer support your well-being is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect. Even if you've invested time, love, and energy, if a relationship continues to pull you down, your growth demands you rise above it. It's okay to outgrow people, places, or patterns that no longer align with your healing. But boundaries don't just exist in your mind. They need a voice. It's not enough to silently hope others will honor your limits. You must speak them. Whether it's saying, "I need space," or "I'm not able to take that on right now." Clear communication ensures that others understand where you stand. And when you do speak up, you're teaching others how to treat you. Not everyone will agree. Not everyone will like it. But those who care will adjust. Those who don't, their reaction is information. Clear boundaries reduce confusion and prevent unnecessary conflict. But when conflict does arise, there's a powerful tool that can transform the dynamic: empathy. Conflict often begins when emotions run high, when perspectives are misunderstood, or when needs go unheard. But empathy, the willingness to step into someone else's shoes, offers a bridge over that chaos. Choosing empathy doesn't mean you agree. It doesn't mean you give in. It means you pause. You listen. You try to understand what lies beneath the surface. Because behind harsh words, there's often hurt. Behind frustration, there's fear. Behind anger, there may be deep disappointment. And when you respond with empathy, you stop reacting to the outburst and start connecting with the root. Empathy doesn't require you to fix everything. Sometimes, all it takes is presence, a moment of stillness, I hear you, a willingness to see another's pain without judgment. When you approach others with an open heart instead of a defensive stance, you create space for healing, for understanding, and for growth. In a world quick to argue, quick to attack, and slow to listen, empathy is a quiet rebellion, and sometimes the most powerful response is compassion. As we explored earlier, empathy has the power to soften conflict and open a pathway toward understanding. But it's more than just a skill. It's a way of showing up, especially when conversations become difficult. Sometimes, people just want to be seen, to be heard, to know that their feelings matter. Even when we don't agree with someone's perspective, offering empathy can be as simple and as transformative as saying, "I can see that you're upset, and I understand why you might feel that way." That acknowledgement doesn't mean agreement. It means recognition. It lets the other person know they're not alone in what they're experiencing. And that simple gesture can dissolve tension, replacing confrontation with connection. By validating someone's experience, we create a bridge instead of a barrier. We invite openness instead of defensiveness. But to truly practice empathy, we need emotional awareness and self-regulation. If we allow ourselves to be swept away by our own emotional reactions, anger, fear, or frustration, it becomes nearly impossible to see the other person's point of view. That's why empathy begins with grounding, taking a breath, stepping back when needed, choosing to respond from a place of calm rather than reacting from a place of charge. Self-awareness is the anchor that holds empathy steady. It allows us to notice our emotional triggers and stay rooted in compassion, even when the conversation is charged. Another essential layer of empathy is non-judgment. In the heat of conflict, it's easy to fall into assumptions. We may label the other person difficult, irrational, unreasonable, based solely on a single behavior or a heated moment. But empathy asks us to pause before we judge. It reminds us that behind every action, there's a story. Behind every word, there may be hurt. Everyone carries invisible battles. And when we remember that, we open our hearts. We create space for compassion to emerge, and that space has the power to diffuse even the most intense tension. Empathy also leads to better communication. When we choose to approach a disagreement with curiosity instead of combat, we shift from competition to collaboration. We're no longer trying to win, we're trying to understand. And when understanding becomes the goal, something powerful happens. We begin to express our needs and emotions without blame. We replace accusations with "I" statements. We listen to hear, not just to respond. This changes the tone, the outcome, and often the relationship. But let's not mistake empathy for passivity. True empathy requires courage, vulnerability. It's tempting to armor up when we feel misunderstood or attacked. But empathy invites us to lower that armor, to stay open, even when it feels uncomfortable. To practice empathy, we must be willing to hear hard things without rushing to defend ourselves, to sit in discomfort without shutting down, and to remember, vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the doorway to connection. That said, empathy does not mean accepting abuse or enabling toxic behavior. It is not about tolerating mistreatment. There's a clear and powerful difference between understanding where someone is coming from and allowing them to harm you. Choosing empathy over conflict means responding with compassion, yes, but it also means standing firm in your boundaries. It means being kind without abandoning yourself. It means remaining open-hearted without being unguarded. Because in the end, empathy isn't just about understanding others, it's about honoring yourself too. Previously, we explored how empathy can be both compassionate and strong, how it can coexist with firm boundaries. Now, let's talk about something deeply connected to both: protecting your energy. You can absolutely acknowledge another person's feelings without compromising your own self-worth. That's the beauty of empathy. It allows you to extend kindness while still standing tall in your truth. But in today's fast-paced, often overwhelming world, one of the greatest acts of self-care is learning how to protect your energy. Your emotional, mental, and physical energy is limited. You only have so much to give in a day, and with every conversation, task, obligation, or encounter, you're either being fueled or being drained. Unfortunately, many of us neglect our energy needs. We give and give and give, often without pause, allowing toxic relationships, external chaos, and constant demands to take more than they should. Over time, this depletion doesn't just wear you down, it disconnects you from your power. Protecting your energy means being intentional about where you invest it. It means recognizing when you're under emotional attack or being slowly pulled into situations that disturb your peace. And it starts with one powerful habit: awareness. Sometimes energy depletion sneaks in quietly. It doesn't always scream. It whispers, in fatigue that won't go away, in the irritability you can't explain, in the anxious feeling you carry after certain interactions. If a particular conversation or environment consistently leaves you feeling drained, heavy, or off balance, listen to that signal. That's your inner wisdom asking for change. But protecting your energy isn't about building walls or avoiding the world. It's about conscious engagement. It means learning how to manage your exposure to negativity and chaos without cutting yourself off from meaningful connection. This might mean creating distance from people who constantly take without giving. It might mean limiting your time in toxic spaces, or even having the courage to walk away from what no longer serves you. The goal isn't isolation, it's self-preservation. It's about participating in life in a way that honors your emotional balance. Selective engagement over total withdrawal. Boundaries, not barricades. And here's a truth many struggle with. Protecting your energy sometimes requires saying no. Not because you don't care, but because you do, about yourself. Many people feel guilty for setting limits. We've been conditioned to equate saying yes with being kind. But constantly saying yes when you're already exhausted is not kindness. It's self-abandonment. Saying no is not selfish. It's sacred. It's a declaration that your well-being matters. Every time you say no to what depletes you, you say yes to your peace, your balance, and your wholeness. In addition to boundaries and saying no, there's another key practice: emotional awareness. It's about tuning into how you feel, often and honestly. Ask yourself regularly, how do I feel after spending time with this person? Does this activity leave me energized or drained? Does this environment lift me up or pull me down? These inner check-ins are like a compass. Your emotions are messengers. They tell you where to stay and where to shift. And when you honor what they reveal, you reclaim the energy you once gave away so freely and begin using it to nourish your growth, your purpose, and your peace. As we continue the journey of protecting your energy, emotional awareness becomes your compass. When you begin to understand how situations impact your emotional state, you reclaim your ability to choose, consciously and powerfully, where to invest your time and energy. Emotional awareness is about responsibility. Instead of allowing the world to dictate your mood or control your reactions, you take the reins. You become the one steering your inner world. And just like your physical body needs nourishment, your emotional and mental energy do too. Protecting your energy means actively cultivating habits and environments that pour back into you. Think about what lifts you up. Spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness, moving your body, journaling, laughing with someone who truly gets you. These are more than just nice things. They're essential practices that preserve and replenish your emotional reserves. You can't thrive if you're constantly surrounded by toxicity. A draining relationship or a chaotic environment can rob you of peace before your day even begins. So invest in what energizes and inspires. Make room intentionally for joy, rest, beauty, and connection. Make it a practice to choose what nourishes your spirit. Sometimes that means learning the powerful art of detachment. In a world that constantly pulls on our emotions, from news headlines to social drama to work pressure, it's easy to feel like you have to care about everything. But carrying the weight of every problem will bury you. And here's the truth. You don't have to fix everything. You're allowed to let go. You're allowed to care deeply, but not carry it all. Detaching doesn't mean you stop loving people or turn your back on the world. It means you choose your emotional battles. It means you free yourself from the pressure to control things that were never yours to manage. Because when you let go of what's outside your control, you create space for what's within it. Your peace, your energy, your healing. Forgiveness is another key to energy protection. Not always for others, but for yourself. Holding on to resentment, past mistakes, or old wounds quietly drains your energy day by day. It keeps you tethered to pain that no longer serves your growth. Forgiving doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior or forgetting what happened. It means choosing to stop carrying it. It means saying, "This no longer gets to weigh me down." That release opens space for clarity, peace, and forward movement. Empowerment through detachment is one of the most liberating gifts you can give yourself. It's not cold, it's not harsh, it's freedom. Detachment is about letting go of the emotional hooks that tie you to people, outcomes, and situations that no longer serve your highest good. It's knowing that you get to choose where your emotional energy goes and saying no to anything that steals your power. At its essence, detachment is also about releasing the need for approval. So many of us spend our lives chasing validation, approval from family, friends, colleagues, even strangers online. And when our self-worth hinges on how others see us, insecurity grows. Detachment invites you to come home to yourself, to stop seeking your worth outside of you, to find confidence from within, because the truth is, you don't need permission to be enough. You already are. As we concluded earlier, detachment empowers you to stop seeking external validation and find your worth from within. It also allows you to reclaim the peace and clarity that come when you're no longer emotionally entangled in everything around you. Standing firm in your identity and values becomes effortless when you're free from the pressure of others' opinions. You're no longer living to meet expectations or walking on eggshells to avoid judgment. You're grounded in your truth, in your purpose, in your power. Detachment also liberates you from the grip of negative emotions. When you're emotionally attached to someone or something, you often ride an exhausting roller coaster of highs and lows, constantly reacting to their words, actions, or moods. This reactive cycle can leave you mentally drained and emotionally scattered. But detachment offers a different way. It allows you to observe without absorbing, to feel without being consumed. You can acknowledge your emotions without letting them hijack your peace or dictate your behavior. That space between stimulus and response, that's where your freedom lives. Letting go through detachment helps you take your power back. When you're entangled in attachment, you may compromise your peace, autonomy, or even your boundaries to preserve the connection. But in doing so, you hand over your emotional well-being to forces outside of you. And that, over time, breeds powerlessness. Detachment returns the power to you. You remember that your joy, your balance, and your sense of fulfillment are not reliant on any person or outcome. You stop outsourcing your happiness. You stop giving others the keys to your emotional state. And in doing so, you become whole again. Detachment also creates room for personal growth. When we're overly attached to people or outcomes, we often stay stuck, locked in patterns that keep us small or stagnant. Growth requires space. And sometimes that space only arrives when you release the people, expectations, or situations that have outlived their purpose in your life. Detachment gives you a chance to pause, to reflect, to ask, is this relationship or environment helping me grow, or is it holding me back? By letting go of what no longer nourishes your soul, you open the door to new experiences, relationships, and paths aligned with your evolution. More than anything, detachment is about choosing yourself. It's about making your needs, peace, and well-being a priority. Often, we stay attached because of guilt, because we're afraid that letting go means we're being selfish, unkind, or ungrateful. But true empowerment comes from understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot show up fully for others if you're emotionally depleted yourself. Detachment gives you permission to tend to your own garden without guilt, to take a step back when needed, to check in with your heart before you give yourself away. And yes, Sometimes detachment means making hard decisions, walking away from toxic dynamics, creating space from people you care about but who no longer align with your path. These moments aren't easy. They can be painful, especially when history and emotion are deeply woven in. But let this truth ground you. Detachment is not rejection. It's self-respect. It's not about abandoning others. It's about not abandoning yourself. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to choose you. In the previous chapter, we explored how detachment is a powerful act of self-respect, how letting go doesn't mean giving up, but instead, reclaiming your peace. Now let's look deeper into how detachment becomes a gateway not only to healing, but to powerful transformation in leadership and connection. When a relationship turns unhealthy, clinging to it doesn't protect it. It prolongs the pain. It keeps you tethered to patterns that rob you of peace and emotional stability. Detachment, on the other hand, allows you to step away from what no longer serves your well-being. It helps preserve your inner calm and creates the emotional space needed for healthier, more supportive connections to enter your life. Relationships aligned with your values and your growth. Detachment also teaches one of life's most liberating lessons: to trust the flow. When we're too attached to specific outcomes or individuals, we unknowingly create expectations. And expectations, when unmet, often lead to deep frustration, disillusionment, or even bitterness. But when we choose detachment, we let go of the need to control every twist and turn. We begin to see that life is not a straight line. Things don't always go according to plan, and that's okay. Detachment invites us to surrender control and trust the process, to believe that every experience, every shift, is guiding us exactly where we need to be. With detachment comes grace. With grace comes peace. And from that place of inner peace emerges a new kind of power, the power to lead, not with fear or control, but with love. Leading with love is a radical departure from traditional leadership, built on dominance, hierarchy, or fear. Instead, it centers on compassion, empathy, and connection. It's a way of guiding others by making them feel seen, heard, and valued. When leaders choose love as their foundation, trust flourishes. Teams become communities. People no longer work out of obligation. They show up with purpose, integrity, and heart. One of the most defining qualities of leading with love is deep listening. Truly great leaders don't just hear words, they listen to meaning. They tune into emotions, read between the lines, and pay attention to what's not being said. They recognize that every person brings a different story, a different perspective. When leaders listen with an open heart, they validate their team's experiences. They empower people to contribute fully, knowing their voices matter. And this empowerment builds stronger relationships, greater collaboration, and deeper respect. Leading with love also means committing to the growth of others. It's not about holding power over people, it's about lifting them up. It's about cheering their success, even when it surpasses your own. This kind of leadership is anchored in mentorship, support, and a desire to see people flourish. Whether it's providing opportunities, offering constructive feedback, or simply being a consistent support system, leaders who lead with love build others up. They don't fear others' growth, they fuel it. And perhaps most importantly, leading with love requires vulnerability. It's easy to wear the mask of perfection or authority, but true leadership is born from authenticity. Leaders who are willing to say, "I don't know," or "I made a mistake," create a culture where others feel safe to be real too. Vulnerability in leadership isn't weakness, it's strength. It says, "I trust you with my truth." And that trust creates a foundation where connection, courage, and creativity thrive. Following from the powerful idea that vulnerability makes a leader more human, we now see how that very quality builds something even greater: trust. When a leader admits their imperfections, when they show empathy in difficult moments, they create a safe space, a culture where authenticity is welcomed, not judged. This trust invites people to take bold steps, to share their ideas without fear, and to collaborate with an open heart. Leading with love is not passive, it is deeply committed. It demands presence, selflessness, and consistency. A leader rooted in love places the well-being and success of their people above personal gain or public praise. It's not about being served, it's about showing up to serve. Love-based leadership shows up in the quiet moments, supporting someone through a setback, removing roadblocks so others can move forward, and offering encouragement when doubt creeps in. It's in these moments that communities become strong. Teams become resilient, and individuals feel genuinely cared for, even when the road is tough. But love in leadership is also about how we treat people day to day. It's about modeling kindness and respect, not as performance, but as principle. When leaders consistently show compassion, they create ripple effects throughout an organization. People begin to mirror that energy. Generosity becomes the norm. Thoughtfulness becomes a culture. This kind of leadership doesn't just feel good, it transforms environments. It turns workplaces into communities, teams into families, and strangers into supporters of one shared vision. Another vital part of leading with love is the commitment to belonging. A leader who leads with love builds more than a team. They build a home. They create space for every voice to be heard, every background to be seen, and every person to be valued. It means celebrating differences, encouraging collaboration, and ensuring no one feels invisible. Because when people feel they belong, they show up more fully. They contribute more freely, and they believe more deeply in the collective mission. Finally, love-based leadership fosters resilience. It embraces the reality that failure and hardship are inevitable, but not final. It's in the presence of love that people learn to rise after they fall. Leaders who embody love offer grace in tough moments and encouragement in uncertainty. They remind their teams, you are more than your mistakes, you're growing, keep going. In that way, love doesn't just comfort, it empowers. And resilience becomes not just an individual trait, but a shared strength. In the end, everything we've explored, detachment, empathy, boundaries, protecting your energy, and leading with love, comes down to one truth. You are worthy of peace, purpose, and power. And that begins with choosing yourself. Choosing yourself is not about selfishness. It's about alignment. It's about tuning into your own truth, honoring your emotional well-being, and showing up in the world from a place of wholeness. When you let go of what no longer serves you, when you listen to your heart instead of noise, when you lead your life and others with love. You don't just change your world, you inspire others to do the same. That is your power, and the world is waiting for it. If these words stirred something in your heart, don't let that inspiration quietly fade away. Hit like, subscribe to Motivation Hub Rise, and ring the bell so you never miss the healing messages to come. And tell us in the comments, what will you do today to protect your energy and inner peace? Because you are worthy of peace, and the world is waiting for the strongest, most loving version of you.